Hello, Resurrection community. It's good to gather with you once again in this way as we strive to remain connected through this social distancing era. Um, it was interesting. I've been thinking about ways in which one of the things that struck me about Lutheran theology is that there are so many things within Lutheran theology that seemingly contradict one another, and yet Lutheran theology holds them in tension with one another. So, for example, saint and sinner, that we are 100% saint and 100% sinner at the same time, seems contradictory, but in that tension, have come so many blessings for me in terms of understanding who I am as a saint and a sinner. And law and gospel is another one of those things that we hold in tension in Lutheran theology, and out of which comes gifts and blessings. And so I've been thinking about that in light of our current circumstances. And, I mentioned in my sermon a week and a half ago or so the idea that through all of this social distancing that's been imposed upon us, I have observed our interconnectedness. That is because of my heightened awareness of what I touch and how that impacts other people, and the precautions that I take, and that the impact of that on other people. It's because of that that I was made aware of how interconnected and interdependent we are. And so this blessing kind of came out of this thing that was that I struggled with. And I've noticed that that's one of the things I'm starting to observe in this as this time unfolds for us, as we deal with these challenges coming forth. There are blessings popping up that seem to contradict the very nature of what we're doing. So, for example, we talk about so much about separation from one another with this in isolation from the social distancing and shelter in place mode that we're in. And yet out of that come new ways for us to connect. And I feel like people are really making an effort to reach out to one another in new ways. And whether that's via video like this, a conference, or phone calls or letters or things, reaching out to friends that we haven't talked to in a while, and just to check in and reestablish that connection. The other day, my wife and I had a happy hour with some friends of hers from college, a virtual happy hour. We did it via Zoom. And it struck all of us, the couples that were on, all have said, why did it take a pandemic for us to connect like this? We hadn't seen each other in a long time, and yet this opened up that opportunity or raised that awareness for us. But it shouldn't take a pandemic for that. And yet here we are. Many people are reaching out and connecting in new ways and deepening relationships with one another. But it seems to be contradictory to the idea of social distancing. We're supposed to be apart, and yet somehow we are brought closer together. So another aspect of this that some of you might relate to, especially if you have children or a spouse or roommates, maybe, I don't know, but is, we're in this time of separation, right? This social distancing from one another. And yet, for those of us who are sheltered in place with a family, perhaps we have a little too much togetherness. It's interesting. It's contradictory to what we're experiencing in this social distancing. And yet, somehow we have been, sheltered in place with these families and these people that we love, perhaps what feels like at times a bit too much. It's interesting because I think with our families and loved ones, we have this kind of rhythm. Like we are together in the morning, we go off to work or to school or to whatever we have to do during the day, and then we're together again in the afternoon or evening, and through the evening, and that works out just fine. We have these rhythms. But now those rhythms are disrupted, and so we're together all the time. And sometimes that can unnerve us. But it also allows for us, I think, if we take some time to ourselves, which I think is important, it allows for us to ease those tensions, ease that anxiety of being together so much, but also being together so much offers us a new opportunity to deepen those relationships in ways that perhaps we hadn't thought of before. And so as we go forward in this time, I encourage you to keep your awareness of where are the blessings in the midst of this. I've seen all kinds of people comment on social media and various places about things they're observing. And so I encourage you to continue that, to observe where is God blessing you? Where is God at work in your life, offering you blessings in the midst of this challenge that seem to contradict everything we know and understand? And God is at work in this mysterious way, bringing forth new life, new connections, and deeper relationships with one another. So I encourage you to continue commenting on that. Comment on this video if you want. Share those with me and with others, because I think all of those observations of where God is blessing us in this life, in this time, in this crisis, are opportunities to provide hope, and it shows where God is at work bringing new life forth into this world. So blessings to you, my friends, and we'll be together soon.